Coming up tonight on YCN News, U.S. Senator from Vermont Bernie Sanders says more healthcare funding is coming to the state that will help to hire more healthcare providers throughout Vermont. Governor Maggie Hassan names the companies who will benefit from money to train 207 employees with new skills needed to keep the state economically competitive. And YCN meets with Italian journalist Yasmin Perni on her recent documentary of the Christian plight in occupied areas of Israel. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCN, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth-Lake Sunapee region, southern Vermont, and Windsor County. News, sports, weather, and all that is happening in our area. The news on YCN, your local view.
Good evening, and welcome to this Thursday edition of YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. The national political scene continues to heat up, and this time a possible contender for the presidency will attend a baseball game in the state's southern tier. Tonight, members of the state Republican Party will host New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Christie earlier was mentioned as a possible 2016 presidential candidate. He has not declared his candidacy yet. Regardless, Christie will be at tonight's Fisher Cats game at the Northeast Delta Dental Stadium in Manchester, welcoming fellow GOP members. All money raised tonight for the New Hampshire Republican Party will go toward electing Republicans across the state, says state GOP leader Jennifer Horn in an announcement. On another note, according to Horn, the baseball team is donating a portion of proceeds to CHAD, the Children's Hospital at Dartmouth-Hitchcock. Meanwhile, in Washington, despite a vote by House Republicans to sue President Barack Obama, work is getting done. By a vote of 420 to 5, the House approved legislation sponsored by U.S. Senator from Vermont Independent Bernie Sanders to overhaul the Department of Veterans Affairs. Now, the U.S. Senate must do the same, and Sanders says he is hopeful the Senate's vote could come today. The legislation will improve the quality and accessibility of medical care for all U.S. veterans. Sanders congratulated his colleague, Republican Representative Jeff Miller of Florida. Sanders and Miller are the co-chairmen of the House and Senate Veterans Affairs Conference Committee. In other news from Vermont, U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders says more healthcare funding is coming to the state, funding that will help to hire more healthcare providers throughout Vermont, especially in its most medically underserved counties. In 9 of Vermont's 14 counties, the lack of physicians creates a problem for residents needing healthcare. A $250,000 allotment from the Federal Health Resources and Services Administration will be matched by the state, with the money used to give loan repayment assistance to 25 healthcare professionals. The 25 professionals includes doctors, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and dentists. Money to help these medical professionals pay off student loans taken out for their healthcare education is part of a provision in the Affordable Care Act sponsored by Sanders. This provision calls for $1.5 billion to be earmarked for the National Health Service Corps. The Corps' mission is to work in rural areas and underserved parts of the country in need of medical treatment by qualified professionals. Treatment is provided at federally approved community health centers where 1 in 4 Vermonters will seek medical or dental care. In Vermont, there are 50 such centers. Jim Lance of Grantham, New Hampshire, worked in the oil industry throughout his professional career. His responsibilities took him around the world and into the Middle East, where he met Italian journalist Yasmin Perni. Their families have kept in close personal contact over those many years. Yasmin has been traveling throughout the United States presenting her completed documentary on the plight of Christians in the occupied areas of Israel. While she and her family visited Jim, he suggested a screening of her film at the Library Arts Center in Newport. YCN caught up with her before the showing of her film recently.
The Palestinian Christian community is a very special community. This is where it's all started.
Christians have lived continuously throughout the Middle East since the day of Pentecost, more than 2,000 years ago. They are the descendants of those early followers of Christ, yet few are even aware of their existence.
The film came about because I was shocked when I moved to Jerusalem what it means to live under occupation. I didn't realize how hard it is to have to go through checkpoints, to have separate license plates, Palestinians and Israelis, to just the daily hardship of living in living in a situation where you're controlled, your movements are controlled. That was shocking to me because I never really felt, I watched the news, but the news always focuses on violence. And the daily life of the Palestinians had been completely ignored as far as I was concerned.
There can be no excuse for the illegal and arbitrary confiscation of furniture and household belongings.
The story of the Christian population is very much the story of all the Palestinian people because they all lived together. And before 1948, Jewish people lived together too.
كانت ساعة سودة لما قعدوا فجروا البيوت مشان يقطعوا لنا الأمل ما نرجعش.
They were always crying and asking God, what have we done?
I chose as an example a Christian village that was, I think it was not 100% Christian, but I think they lived only 2 Muslim families. The great majority was Christian. But I chose only the Christian village because I wanted to tell their story. And it's a very powerful story because their village was destroyed. Was bombed by the Israelis to prevent them from going back, and the majority of the population lives nearby, but it's not allowed to move back to their own village. Some of them live 4 kilometers away. They can see their village, but they cannot go live in their village because it's a national park now.
Don't come just to run where Jesus walked, but come to meet the living stones.
I would encourage people to travel and see for themselves. I would encourage to go beyond the network news. Go on Facebook, go on Twitter, follow journalists who are not the main media.
My youngest son, he said, Mom, after what we suffer and born, this is the end, is to bury us alive in a big tomb forever.
It's really impossible that you can live in peace and hide the problem behind the wall because it will explode. So if you want to live in Israel, you have to let the Palestinians also have peace. And then you can live together. This is what I hope, and this is my hope that comes out through the film, at 2 people living in one land in peace. It's possible.
The tragedy of all wars is the victimization of the civilian populations. We now see this every day in the Middle East and the Ukraine. In the discussion afterwards, Yasmin made a point that she did not sanction the acts of Hamas, but was trying to bring the perspective of everyday people forward. We would like to thank Yasmin and Jim Lance for making this showing possible. If you would like to learn more, go to the website thestonescryoutmovie.com. When YCN News returns, we'll continue with more news.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. Employers in New Hampshire may want to take advantage of a program that pays for job training to its workers. Today, Governor Maggie Hassan named the companies who will benefit from money to train 207 employees with new skills needed to keep the state economically competitive. The money comes from the state's Job Training Fund, a sum of $106,811. Companies include the New Hampshire Auto Dealers Association of Concord, Granite State Manufacturing, Granite United Way of Manchester, Precision Tool and Molding of Derry, Worthen Industries of Nashua, RDF Corporation of Hudson, and in the North Country, Beta Acquisition of Thornton and Tinder Corporation of Littleton. Since October 2007, the State Job Training Fund has awarded $7.1 million in grants to companies. As part of the program, employers awarded a grant also pitch in for job training, about $16.9 million to date. Companies interested in applying to the Job Training Fund should visit the fund's website at nhjobtrainingfund.org. Good news for all who live, work, or drive through the Granite State Capitol. Concord City Councilors approved earlier this week a $10 million revamp of its downtown, New Hampshire Public Radio reports. The vote was 14-1 in favor of the project. Work is scheduled to begin this fall and will focus on Main Street and several adjacent roads. Care will be taken, NHPR says, to keep disruption to a minimum so the businesses can continue to do what they do best, serve customers. If you're headed to this weekend's Shrine Parade and football game in Hanover, keep in mind parking restrictions apply. Some streets will be closed to traffic. The parade begins at noon on Saturday with setup starting at 10 a.m. The best high school football players from Vermont and New Hampshire will kick off their game at 5:30 p.m. at Dartmouth College's football stadium. By 9 p.m., the game is expected to be over as traffic leaves the area. To learn more about traffic setup, go to the Hanover Town website at hanovernh.org or call Hanover Police Lieutenant Michael Evans at 603-640-3324. They cost towns and businesses money and typically give drivers valuable information and keep motorists safe. We're talking about street signs. A rash of street signs throughout the southern Vermont town of Pownell have been stolen from their placements over July. This includes signs advertising local businesses. Vermont State Police seek the public's help in locating the signs and whoever is responsible for their theft. So far, the signs appear to be stolen, say police, during the early morning hours. Witnesses have described seeing a pickup truck leaving the scene where a sign formerly stood. Anyone with information is encouraged to contact the Vermont State Police at the Shaftesbury Barracks, 802-442-5421. Information can also be submitted anonymously online at vtips.info or text CRIMES to 74637. The keyword is VTIPS. Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. Now Matt McDonald will have a look at our weather for the next few days and then move on to sports.
Thanks, Rose. Tonight we have a 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms before 8 p.m. Small hail and gusty winds may be produced by storms. Patchy fog will set in after 2 a.m. with mostly cloudy skies clearing up. Lows will be in the 50s and winds will be around 5 miles per hour. Tomorrow morning will be foggy before 8 a.m. and we'll have a 40% chance of rain between noon and 1 p.m. with possible storms afterwards. Highs will reach up to 81 degrees with calm winds. Tomorrow night we'll have a chance of storms before 7 p.m. with cloudy skies and a low of 61 degrees. Saturday we'll have a 50% chance of showers with mostly cloudy skies and highs in the upper 70s. Saturday night we'll have a 30% chance of rain with cloudy skies and lows in the 50s. You can see here that we are facing several severe storms during the next couple of days. We will bring updates on this storm on tomorrow's weather report. Now let's see what's coming up on our community calendar. Tomorrow in Cornish, New Hampshire, the Board of Selectmen will meet at 3 p.m. In Walpole, New Hampshire and Bellows Falls, Vermont, the farmers markets will begin at 4 p.m. In White River Junction, the Juke Joint Concert will begin at 6:30 p.m. in Lyman Point Park. Remember, you can submit local events from your community by sending them to news@ycnnow.com. It's time to get ready for this year's Shrine Maple Sugar football game. Every year, the best graduated high school athletes from Vermont and New Hampshire compete against each other in an epic game. Visit the Dartmouth College football field August 2nd at 5:30 p.m. to watch this highly anticipated game. Proceeds from the game will be donated to Shriners Children's Hospitals around the country. Shriners Bowl money helps the hospitals tremendously. In total, $4.5 million has been raised in New Hampshire games since 1954. Be sure to check out the game and also contribute to a good cause.